Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
It is that time of the week. We talk with Mike Triplett of neworleans.football. Mike, we appreciate the time as always. Happy New Year. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Mike, Saints and Bucs. And you know what? Actually, I think the last time the Saints matched up against the Bucs, I was also filling in for Matt that Thursday, and we previewed that game, and we're all hoping that this one goes a little bit better than that one did. But let's run it back nonetheless. Playoffs, I guess we can kind of start there with that being on the line for the Saints. There's a bunch of places we could start, but they have to keep winning. It's slim, I get it, but give me some hope. What is out there to believe that, okay, the Saints can go and keep their playoff hopes alive this week?
Well, look, we may be having a different conversation a week from now. If they go into Tampa and beat the Bucs, it would be their most impressive win of the season. And then we'd start being like, well, if they can beat Atlanta and Tampa Bay can lose to Carolina, you never know. It would at least be a slightly more optimistic view than we have of this team right now. I mean, the loss to the Rams wasn't just a loss that hurt their playoff seeding. I mean, it was a loss that made them look like they're not a playoff team. You know, it was a harsh slap back down to reality, I think, after that 2-game win streak that they went against a good opponent, a hot opponent, and just looked totally outclassed. So the only way to reverse that is to go beat another team that's on a 4-game win streak on the road that's leading your division right now, and have your most impressive win of the season. Otherwise, it will officially be putting them out of their misery.
So let's talk about how they can potentially go about doing that. I look at this, and one giant matchup sticks out to me because it won't be there, and that's Marshon Lattimore versus Mike Evans. We talk about it every single time with this game. We are being cheated. I'm sure Mike Evans might probably cheap shot somebody still. It just might not be number 23 in black and gold. But who guards him? Because he has the potential this year to set a career high in touchdowns. He's been having a great year with Baker Mayfield throwing him the football. Who slides into that spot for Lattimore?
Well, look, Paulson Adebo has arguably been the MVP of the Saints. He did not play his best, just like the rest of the team, against the Rams, but he's been excellent, and I kind of like to see him in this matchup. But he's not Marshon Lattimore, and the Saints are a lot better if you get both those guys on the field. And then, you know, the matchup that scares me even more is Chris Godwin lines up in the slot a lot, and I think whoever is in the slot, Mike Evans lines up in the slot sometimes. I think Tampa Bay is going to attack that because we just saw Alontae Taylor struggle to the point where he got benched, and he's going to be starting again in this game, but they're going to test him and test the resolve there. So, you know, it's not having Lattimore, and it's the domino effect of not having Lattimore that's going to make this a really tough matchup for them.
Hey, what have you made in the safety spot there? Without Marcus May, but Jordan Howden has stepped in quite nicely a couple times. He was back at practice today, which is a welcome sign. But, of course, Lonnie Johnson wasn't. So your numbers are thin, but at least you have Howden maybe there at the back end?
Yeah, he's going to be back. He was just missing with illness for one practice, but he was back.
Did we lose Mike? Mike, are you there?
No, I'm sorry. I said he was back on the practice field, and he looks good to go. I mean, obviously, you still don't have Marcus May, but you should have Matthew and Howden. But it's definitely thinner with no Marcus May, no Lonnie Johnson the last couple weeks, no Marshon Lattimore, and they look like a thinner secondary in this last game.
So, and again, they'll go up against Baker Mayfield, who looks like he might be on his way to a contract there in Tampa Bay. Flip it over to the offensive side. Man, the slow starts have been a thing for the Saints defensively and offensively this year, and I mean everyone's got their opinion of why. What's yours?
I haven't formulated a real opinion on it. It's weird to me. It's weird to me on defense, especially because, whether you want to say it's coaching not getting them riled up, you have emotional leaders like Demario Davis who gives that pregame speech. I don't feel like there's a lack of passion, and then when they go and they play great in the second half, and they always fight back and stop the offenses from scoring, like Detroit, they give themselves a chance to win. They've got the skills. I have no idea why it's always a slow start. You have to blame coaching, you have to blame game planning, or the scripted first 15 plays, not knowing what they're going to get from another team before they get used to it. They settle in and they adjust well. But, I think anything that we pick apart in this season, whether it's the run game, whether it's the red zone offense, whether it's slow starts, I think it's all a part of a bigger problem with is it's not as good of a team. They fail in a lot of these areas because they're not good enough to be consistently great from start to finish. And we very, very few. The Giants game 2 weeks ago was the only time I thought we saw 60 minutes of good ball from all three units. I don't think we've seen that any other time this season.
It's been a struggle offensively in general for the Saints, but definitely against the Buccaneers. And when I was looking at it earlier, since Drew Brees retired, in the 5 games since then, New Orleans is averaging 16 points against Tampa Bay per game. Now, obviously, look, the Buccaneers' defense is very good, and they're getting healthy now, and they just put on a show against the Jaguars. It's even a little grimmer. In the last 3, they're averaging 11. Is there a way, do you see a way that this offense can kind of snap that streak? It was, granted, Derek Carr was coming off that shoulder injury the last time these two teams met, but, they had 3 points at halftime, 6 points before. There's 3 field goals, Mike.
You remember that was a game where Tampa Bay, they're still running the Tampa 2 defense better than anyone else all these years later. But I think that's been a real problem for the Saints. That was the game where they took away the deep threats so much that Derek Carr completed 13 passes to Alvin Kamara for 33 yards. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. But Antoine Winfield was playing out of his mind. Levante David and Devin White remain maybe the best linebacker duo in the league. And, it's a defense that causes some matchups problems for this team. Now, obviously, I expect better than that. I think that was probably their worst offensive performance in the entire season, if I'm not forgetting one. But the Saints like to find ways to get the ball to their playmakers like Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, and I think they become really, really non-lethal when they're not able to hit those shots.
One more, I should have mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the injuries. Ryan Ramczyk today, when he met with the media, mentioned the potential for off-season surgery. Look, I don't want to totally speculate, but that doesn't sound too good for his status on Sunday, especially after he's missed the last 2 weeks. But just kind of a thought on the injury that he's been going through, and especially at the stage of his career now, and the potential for surgery for your franchise right tackle.
No, I'm posting a story on it. Did a deeper dive. He was really open. I talked to him for a long time today, and they haven't ruled out the idea of him playing this season. I really don't think he's going to play Sunday. They didn't officially rule that out yet, but I highly doubt it. But what he's been dealing with for the last few years now is basically a bone-on-bone issue because of a cartilage defect, and they haven't had surgery in it for a few years. They've come up with a strengthening and pain management and rest program, and it was working for a while until it wasn't. And this season's been a fight, and he's going to go back to the drawing board this offseason. He probably will have a surgery. He doesn't know that for sure, but he's going to talk to doctors, surgeons, and be like, what can we do? Reminds me of Teron Armstead, who traveled the globe finding answers for his injury problems and actually found some answers doing that. But, he said he wants to keep playing, but, it's gotten worse over time instead of better. It's not going to get better. It's how can they manage it so that he can keep playing. But it's really unfortunate because he's one of the core players of this entire team.
All right, let's shift back to the game here. Mike Triplett, our guest, on Twitter, at Mike Triplett, neworleans.football. You should get subscribed up for sure. And you can find that story, like you just mentioned there, that he has dropped in on Ryan Ramczyk. We began this talking about the postseason potentially for the Saints. They have to win out and hope that Tampa Bay loses to Carolina. If the Saints don't win on Sunday, is that the final straw for Dennis Allen in New Orleans?
I really don't think it is from every indication I've gotten. I think this team recognizes that it has major issues and that it can't just run it back next year. But I don't think they think, the axe automatically falls on Dennis Allen for that. I don't know if they'll feel that way if they watch him lose the last 3 games, if the other 2 games are as ugly as the Rams game was. I feel like one win might make it, secure, no question. I would have guessed. I mean, I've been under the assumption that, 9-8 is safe. Losing record, miss the playoffs, lose this division. I would have thought not safe. But my gut is, chances are he's going to stay, barring something so ugly that they just can't ignore it.
Okay, well, you said that they understand that they can't just roll on. They can't just run it back, right? So what? And I don't want to get too into the weeds with the future of the franchise and everything, but I mean they're hanging on by a thread here for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Next, if they lose, when you come on this show next week and talk to Matt, there's going to be a lot of questions about the future of the franchise. So what might it look like? What might change this come? Is it players? Is it?
I obviously think the offense has to change, and that'll probably mean major changes to coaching staff on offense, or major philosophical changes, or both. I think personnel could change, but I guess what I mean is, without knowing their final decisions, or if they've even made their final decisions, because they've still got 2 weeks to finally decide exactly what those changes are going to be. I think there was a strong sense last year that injuries had knocked them off, the shuffling quarterbacks had knocked them off, and if they were a little bit healthier and they got their answer at quarterback, that they really liked their roster and they felt like they were still on a good track. This year, I don't think that we're going to hear that same rhetoric. I don't think they're going to hear, if just a couple other things have gone our way, we really think that, this team is in the right direction. I think they recognize, all right, so, a lot of things need to be improved, a lot of things need to change, a lot of areas they need to get younger. So I don't know how easy it will be to make those changes, but I do think they recognize the need for those changes without question. They're not the everything is fine here meme in the middle of the fire.
Yeah. Mike Triplett, neworleans.football on Twitter, at Mike Triplett. He's with us every Thursday here on AFR, giving us a preview there. Saints Bucs in Tampa this weekend, as well as what could come as fallout from that game, win or lose, for the Saints. Mike, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the football on Sunday and wish you a happy new year.
Yes, thanks for having me as always.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.